All right, everyone, the Week 8 slate has gotten a little bit more interesting as the week has progressed. I think we have a pretty strong kind of build that we can get to in cash. We have an additional core play as the week has progressed. And then we're actually getting a lot of fun lineups that we can make with the top 3 stud running backs, Bijan Robinson, Jonathan Taylor, and also CMC. Very viable options there. We'll talk about that. And we are getting some interesting ownership spots as well. We'll talk about my favorite stacks as well. So lots to cover, guys. Let's go ahead and get into it. So guys, I do want to start with talking about AJ Brown being ruled out because that is going to make one of the plays for the Philadelphia Eagles probably just a core play on this slate. So AJ Brown going to be out in this game. I think that just means Devonta Smith now becomes one of the better receiver plays on the slate, especially considering his price tag. Okay, so he's priced at 5.9. And he gets a very good matchup against the Giants, a team that just gives up a plethora of receptions to opposing receivers. It was a spot that we were attacking last week with Courtland Sutton. It's going to be a spot that we're going to attack again this week. This is one of the plays where if it doesn't work out, I'm kind of like, okay, it was a good spot. I can live with that. And that makes the lineup process for week 8 so much more simple, I think, especially in regards to building a very strong lineup. So I'm going to go ahead and give you guys kind of my week 8 safe build here. And the purpose for this, if it hasn't been clear, is you can make builds off of this, slight pivots to then make very good GPP plays or very good GPP lineups. Okay. And so I do want to talk about that. So obviously, Bijan Robinson, we're going to plug in the rest of the core plays. So Robinson, guys, and then Bo Nix. We're going to get to Sutton still. We're also going to get to Robinson, Wendell Robinson, that is. And then I mentioned I really like Colston Loveland as a core play as well, with Cole Kmet being out. So we're going to get to him as well. And so we're sitting pretty darn good with this base build. And then it becomes a question of where do we go from there? If we go ahead and take a peek at the chalk, and we'll do that real quick here, guys. So we take a peek at the running back chalk. We're going to notice Bijan Robinson, number 1, makes sense. Derrick Henry, number 2. I don't know if the Tyler Huntley news, or I should phrase it as Lamar Jackson news, I don't know if that's actually going to help or hurt Derrick Henry. Because the matchup with Chicago is a matchup that could get out of hand because the offense has been clicking for Chicago. And I do think there are some builds we can make based off of that. But if Lamar Jackson sits, Huntley is a cheap value, but I do think that would end up ultimately hurting the upside of Derrick Henry just in the chance that the game gets out of hand. So he's priced at $6K. Everyone's going to him. And I think it makes sense. But at the same time, to be that high owned, we are going to get some decent pivots right off of him. So, Breece Hall, we'll talk about that in just a second. But again, like DeAndre Swift becomes just another great pivot like he was last week, guys. So I think that ends up being a good option. So I did want to mention that. But yes, for safe build purposes, we'll put him in there for now. I do think we could make the adjustment if Tyler Huntley ends up starting, and it is going to be Huntley and not Cooper Rush, just as an FYI. So from there, Rachaad White is chalk. I'm okay eating as well. He should just get a decent amount of volume in the passing game, and it's a much better matchup going against the Saints. And the Bucs receivers are all still pretty banged up. Mike Evans is out. Chris Godwin is out. Obviously, that's going to create some value with Sterling Shepard, with Taz Johnson as well, and even the other Johnson as well, potentially him as well. But I do think going with Rachaad White is the safest click. And then from there, guys, let's just go and take a peek at the DST projections. I don't really care, honestly, who it is. Let's see here. Browns, 2.5 if we round up. Jets, projected at 2.7. Or that's value, sorry. Jets projected to get 6.3. Browns are projected to get 6.2. So we're probably just looking at one of those two at that cheap salary price tag. And so I get why the Jets are that high, although I don't know if I necessarily love it. But that's okay. You guys get the point. Like a decent safe build here. There's a bunch of slight pivots you can make off of this build to make a better build. And then, guys, it is worth calling out. We have a very logical way to go about getting CMC, Bijan Robinson, and JT into the same build. And you might be wondering, well, why would we do that? That's something we shouldn't do. I think you could actually get away with it in cash. I think that's also something you could get away with in GPPs. Obviously, you would have to hit the correct combination of players. But looking at it, guys, from a fantasy point projections, okay, we could be locking in, let's just say 60 DFS points just with our running backs. And then obviously we have to find some value receiver-wise to be able to do that. And so let's just take a peek at some of those receiver values that we could get to. And we're going to sort the lineup builder by value here real quick. First and foremost, Jalen Noel is someone that a lot of people are getting to, but you also have his teammate, Jaden Higgins as well popping up as a decent value. They both got a lot of snaps, but you also have Xavier Hutchinson there as well, who also will probably get a lot of snaps. Those three receivers are likely to get around 70% of the snaps. It actually probably will be Hutchinson, Higgins, and then Noel in terms of snaps, but kind of slot roll, typically safer target share. But those plays are all certainly options we could use in a lineup with those three. And let's go ahead and talk about the Tennessee Titans receivers as well. So DK is someone that, again, guys, I've been calling this out a bunch. I think he is their best receiver, their best weapon, I should say, catching the ball for the pass catchers. He just continues to stand out on film. Now, we do need him to get to 65% of the snaps or so, but it is going to be a negative game script seemingly again. Van Jefferson is cheaper than him, who ultimately has been the receiver number one with Calvin Ridley off the field, and he's someone you could definitely play in a lineup with JT, CMC, and Bijan Robinson as well. Tight end-wise, obviously Colston Loveland is appealing to me, but I do want to talk about one other tight end as well, and that's Tanner Conner, guys, okay? He's priced at almost the min price, only projected for a fantasy score, not the best, but he's someone that in a negative game script would be forced on the field, and with Darren Waller off the field, and then obviously with Tyreek Hill off the field, it wouldn't be shocking to see him do well. So what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead, and I already did this. I'm going to do the rule here of I want exactly three of Bijan Robinson, Jonathan Taylor, and CMC in a build. And let's just run it and see what it spits out to us as a good option. Now, I do want to call it, I did give Kirk Cousins a projection of about 13 in this spot because of Michael Penix likely to sit. So I did want to call that out. But you can see here, guys, we are able to make some decent builds. We can still get Bo Nix in there. It's going to Ian Manor, Josh Reynolds, who's fine for the Jets. I think that ends up working out as a value you want to get to as well. So you can see the lineups are actually pretty darn decent in terms of like a good target share for the pass catchers that we want to get to. Now, ultimately, we could do a solo quarterback play. Let's see if we can actually get away with a stack as the quarterback as well. I don't know if we necessarily need to do that if you guys are doing this lineup path. And again, I think it can be a viable option just due to the amount of good values that we are getting on the slate, extreme values that we are getting on the slate. And so here we go. So CJ Stroud, we're going to get Dalton Schultz. Okay, that's going to be low owned, obviously. Tyrod Taylor with Josh Reynolds. Again, I think would be okay with that. Bo Nix with Troy Franklin, that's interesting. Okay, and so you guys can kind of see the lineup paths that's going with here. I don't hate these really at all. I think they end up making sense. This one, Kirk Cousins, you can still get Drake London in his stack, and then you get Higgins, Van Jefferson, and Colston Loveland. Like, these are viable lineups, and it's pretty darn crazy that we can get away with that. So yes, guys, I do want to go ahead and talk about some RV pivot plays that we can be on. So we are going to notice again, Rashad Wright and also Derrick Henry are pretty chalk options just due to their pricing. And I want to talk about some spots that we also need to watch for. So like Breece Hall, if he ends up sitting, Isaiah Davis at 4.1 really would become a very strong option. He's already someone that should get some involvement in the receiving game. Maybe even just sees a little bit more snaps with Breece Hall being a little bit banged up. You know, there's all these trade rumors going around as well. Maybe that's on the table. But Isaiah Davis did want to call that. He's almost the min price in one of the best matchups on the slate. He'd be someone I would be fine getting off of Derrick Henry for and then being able to pay up elsewhere. And so I did want to call that out. And then from there, like I get why CMC's the lowest own because at some point, among the big three, I should say, at some point, like George Kittle should get involved, but Ricky Pearsall is going to sit still. And so like CMC should get his involvement in the passing game as well. From there, I do think Chase Brown is someone we can consider as a strong kind of GPP option. Woody Marks as well, a low-owned GPP option. DeAndre Swift, I still like. So I want to talk about those plays a little bit more in depth here. So yes, guys, I know running back wise, and let's just actually pull up both running backs here for the Bears. Running back wise, we do have to worry about Kyle Monangai getting some more work here, guys. So Kyle Monangai is projected to get 7 opportunities, whereas DeAndre Swift is projected to get right around 16. Swift is projected 13 DFS points, Monangai, 6. I do think this could end up being still more of a 60-40 split. Okay. Swift is apparently nursing a groin injury. This play, Swift becomes much more appealing if Lamar Jackson ends up sitting, and then it becomes an even better leverage spot. I don't think right now, based off of the news, that the Bears should be 7-point dogs. They could actually end up winning this game, and it would not be shocking. Now, the Bears secondary is extremely banged up. So you attack on the fact that Lamar Jackson is probably going to play, and also the Bears secondary is so banged up. I think that's why we're seeing it. But either way, that could still lead to DeAndre Swift getting some work in the passing game, although for some reason Ben Johnson likes using Kyle Monangai on third downs. And I say it because Monangai has been a terrible pass blocker. Okay, it's gotten a little bit better as the years progress, but Swift has been a stud. And I do actually like getting to, and I'll talk about the stacks in just a second, the Bears pass catchers a little bit more in the spot, given the fact that they're 7-point dogs. But I did want to call that out. There are some spots that could break our way that makes him end up being a more appealing play. And let's go ahead and talk about Woody Marks, guys. So Woody Marks ended up playing 60% of the snaps last week. If we look at it, they are going to be 2-point favorites in this game. So that should favor a little bit more Nick Chubb. But either way, I think Woody Marks continues to look better. They're going to want him to get involved, I think, in the receiving game as well, with how banged up they are, with Christian Kirk being out and with Nico Collins being out. I think Woody Marks should be double the ownership that he currently is. It's not like you need to go crazy with him, but I do think it makes sense to be overweight on him just because of his involvement in the receiving game. And if he maybe even takes a step further with his snaps, maybe gets to 65% of the snaps, then I think we'd look back in this and be like, yeah, we probably should have been on him more. And then Chase Brown draws a very good matchup against the Jets, a matchup where they are 6-point favorites. If you look at the projections out there, he's projected to get his most rush attempts since week 2. 14.5, guys. He's also projected to get about 2.6 receptions. We saw him be very efficient in the last game. Now in a positive game script potentially for him, that becomes appealing. Then we start talking about him being able to score a touchdown. If he scores a touchdown, he could get to like 18 or so DFS points at 8% ownership and about 5.4 for a salary. That becomes much more appealing there. You are basically betting on him scoring a touchdown, which if he does, it would not be hard to imagine him outscoring Derrick Henry and or Rashad White. Okay, that becomes much more in play there, but we do need a touchdown out of him. And then real quickly, guys, I do want to jump into some of my favorite stacks on the week. So I do like Caleb Williams there, stacked with DJ Moore or Roma Dunze, and then also get into Colston Loveland because I think Loveland is kind of due for a breakout here. Again, he's kind of one of my favorite tight end value plays. And so it's kind of as simple as this. We'll type in Caleb Williams here, guys, and we'll say I want at least 2, and we could do exactly 2, but we're just going to do Moore, Roma Dunze, and then Colston Loveland. And I will say, guys, there has to be a game where DJ Moore breaks out. It's a phenomenal spot for him to break out as well, DJ Moore. And I'm kind of leaning more towards him. And I know I've said this a bunch, and I've been on Roma Dunze in spots as well. Don't get me wrong. It just feels like it should be a DJ Moore game. Because it hasn't happened yet. Design a play for him, Ben Johnson. Design a touchdown for him. Please give it to us. From there, Bo Nix. I do like Bo Nix in stacks for sure. The thing with Bo Nix is I know I want at least Cortland Sutton with him for sure. But I do think we could get away with this. So Sutton we're going to get to. Again, I'm treating him as a core play, but also let's go ahead and do this. Troy Franklin, I think we can get to a little bit. Also, Marvin Mims is a play. That's the issue. It's that receiver number 2 spot that I'm worried about, but Evan Ingram as well. I would actually rather get to Evan Ingram over those 2. So if we're looking at a direct stack, I think it'd be Bo Nix, Sutton, and Ingram. Okay, but I do think we need to factor in those other 2. So we're going to add that group in there as well. And then one other stack that I do think is a little bit interesting, if he does start, is Kirk Cousins. And then you could actually get to one of, and I don't think we need to get to Kyle Pitts now. We saw Kirk Cousins actually make Darnell Mooney a very significant fantasy receiver throughout the year last year. So I want to get to him, but also obviously we need to get to Drake London. And then I think we could still do Bijan Robinson. Robinson could still get a lot of work in the receiving game. And the point of doing this is the fact that Kirk Cousins is too cheap, and it's kind of a unique stack that not many people will be on. And so that becomes another viable option for us. And so if we're trying to set kind of our final settings here, guys, we'll put Bijan Robinson, JT in there as kind of cores that we want to get to. I'm going to want to get to at least 5 or probably 5 of these players in all my builds. We'll go with 4. 4 of these players in all my builds. Okay, I think this ends up being a good route to go. And then we'll click in some more players here. So the core players I mentioned, Sutton we'll get to. We'll get to Wandale Robinson. We'll get to Devonta Smith now as well. We could still toss in Loveland there. Again, the reason why I like Loveland is just due to his price. I think he's the lowest price tight end play that I feel comfortable getting to. And this is finally a slate where I do think we need to be considering dipping down into the value tight end tier to make good lineups from there. So we're going to click save. We'll make 5 lineups here for you guys. We'll put the max exposure at 75%. That doesn't really matter. But let's just see what lineups it spits out to us. And so here we go. It is. Like, again, guys, Lamar might play or might not play. If he does play Zay Flowers, I like to stack more. I don't know if we necessarily need to get to it. A lot of the week, guys, has been trying to do 2 tight end sets. I don't know if we need to do that. I didn't mention James Cook here. I do like James Cook, just as an FYI. I think he's a decent play at his price tag. I think he's a good leverage opportunity. I will say, I do not like CJ Stroud that much. I'm going to try this again without having tight end in the flex. I think that's a good route to go. So we'll do it one more time. And what I'll probably need to do to ensure that it gets to Bo Nix and also Caleb Williams as much as I want is just bump up their fantasy projection slightly or change the min exposure to the point where I'm getting to them a little bit more, if that makes sense. I think it does. And literally as I'm recording this video, we did just get news that Lamar Jackson will be inactive, guys. So that makes DeAndre Swift a better play on paper. Okay, the game should be a little bit closer then. That hurts Derrick Henry, I would say, significantly, because you could see the Bears winning this game then, and obviously if the Bears are playing with the lead, that could lead to Derrick Henry not being on the field as much. Now, I do think they're going to set the tone, rushing the football with Derrick Henry, makes Zay Flowers not as good of a play, and ultimately it makes the Caleb Williams stack a little bit less appealing, but still ends up being a pretty good stack, so I did want to talk about that. And so here we go, guys. A little bit more balance here for sure in regards to the lineups that we're getting to. Again, I want to get to Bo Nix. It is trying to get to Troy Franklin with him, Courtland Sutton. I'm fine with that. Then the Caleb Williams build. Williams with Colson Loveland, DJ Moore in the flex. Again, that's our way of getting unique. I do like those lineup opportunities that we are getting to there. But that's going to do it for this video, guys. Thanks for being here. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you guys have not done so before. If you guys would like access to any of the tools that you saw throughout this video, head on over to 9to5sports.com. Get access to all those tools for a low monthly cost of $10 a month. Appreciate you guys being here. Good luck. And as always, let's keep cashing.